The crystalline spires of New Aurora shattered like dreams in the night sky. Nyx watched from her escape pod as plasma beams carved through her homeworld's iconic towers, their iridescent surfaces melting into rivers of light. The Kraken Federation's warships moved with mechanical precision, methodically destroying everything her people had built over 10,000 years. She was only in her second metamorphosis cycle, barely an adolescent by luminary standards, but she understood enough to know this was genocide. The Kraken had finally decided that a species capable of harvesting stellar energy through their crystalline bodies posed too great a threat to their power monopoly in this sector of the galaxy. The pod's navigation system blared warnings as another volley of plasma fire screamed past. Nyx's crystalline form pulsed with fear patterns, sending rainbow refractions dancing across the pod's interior. She had no control over her body's natural light show. Emotional suppression wouldn't develop until her third metamorphosis. Right now, she was broadcasting her terror to anyone who could see. Course plotted to nearest sanctuary world. The pod's AI announced in the musical tones of her people. Warning: damage to primary drive detected. Full range cannot be achieved. Nyx's heart sank. The nearest sanctuary world was 3 systems away, well beyond the pod's damaged range. But before she could request alternatives, a massive explosion rocked the pod. Warning lights flashed red as the cabin depressurized. Through the spreading cracks in the view screen, she watched in horror as her mother's diplomatic vessel erupted into a miniature sun. The pod's AI shifted to emergency protocols, plotting a crash trajectory toward the nearest habitable planet. Nyx barely registered the details through her grief. A mining world called Infernus IV, technically within Galactic Council space, but practically lawless. The sort of place where corporations ruled and questions weren't asked. As the pod plunged through the atmosphere, Nyx tried to focus on survival. Her crystalline biology made her incredibly resilient. She could survive in vacuum, extreme temperatures, and even radioactive environments. But the pod's computer highlighted a more immediate threat. The atmosphere was heavily laden with sulfur compounds. While not immediately lethal to her species, prolonged exposure would gradually corrode her crystalline matrix. The impact came faster than expected. The pod's remaining systems cushioned the crash as best they could, but Nyx still felt hairline fractures spread through her outer layer. She found herself in a crater surrounded by black volcanic rock, noxious fumes already seeping through the pod's damaged hull. Her distress beacon activated automatically, broadcasting on all emergency frequencies. Through the pod's cracked sensors, she detected considerable traffic in orbit. Mining ships, cargo vessels, even what appeared to be a Galactic Council patrol. Surely someone would respond. Hours passed. The sulfurous atmosphere continued its steady assault on her crystalline form. She could feel the microscopic pitting beginning, like age taking hold at an accelerated rate. The traffic continued overhead, but no one descended. No one responded. She intercepted fragments of communications, corporate vessels stating they were forbidden from interfering in political matters. The Galactic Council patrol citing complex diplomatic considerations. Even private traders refusing to risk Kraken reprisals. They all knew she was there. They all chose to let her die. As her consciousness began to fade, Nyx reflected on the stories she'd learned about humanity, the galaxy's newest spacefaring species. Most accounts painted them as primitive and dangerous, barely contained savages who had somehow stumbled into faster-than-light travel. Their ships were crude by galactic standards, their weapons unrefined, their very presence in space considered a potential threat by more civilized species. Yet there were other stories. Whispered accounts of human ships breaking quarantine to deliver medical supplies during plagues, of human crews fighting off pirates to protect refugee vessels, of humans diving into gas giant storms to rescue crashed ships when no one else would dare. Stories that the older species dismissed as exaggerations or propaganda. A new engine signature appeared in her failing sensor range, different from the others. Rougher, less efficient, but somehow more purposeful. Through the pod's cracked viewport, she saw a battered vessel dropping through the sulphurous clouds. It bore the red and white markings she would later learn designated human medical ships, though this one looked more like a converted mining vessel than a proper hospital ship. Her sensors, deteriorating as they were, caught fragments of communication. "Corporate's gonna have our hides for this, Cap. Corporate can shove it. We've got a kid down there. Kraken's already got ships in system. They'll be looking. Then we better move fast. Doc, how's that crystalline biology crash course coming?" "I've got the basics. Their structure is silicon-based, but it's more complex than simple crystal. They're like living fiber optic networks. The sulfur exposure will be the biggest immediate threat. Can we help? If we reach them in time, the atmospheric shield should stabilize their matrix long enough for proper treatment. But we need to hurry." The ship settled next to her crater with surprising grace for its bulky frame. Through her increasingly clouded vision, Nix saw environmental-suited figures rushing toward her pod. Their faceplates revealed what she had been taught were predator features: forward-facing eyes, obvious canine teeth, everything her people had been warned about. But their hands were gentle as they attached the atmospheric shield, their movements careful as they extracted her from the wreckage. The human doctor immediately began treatment, showing a surprisingly nuanced understanding of her biology, despite their supposed primitive status. "Hey there, little one," the doctor said through her suit's translator. "I'm Dr. Maya Rodriguez. You're safe now. We'll get you fixed up." As the humans carried her to their ship, Nix managed to ask the question burning through her corroded matrix. "Why? Everyone else. They just passed by." The captain, a weathered-looking human female, answered without hesitation. "Because that's not what humans do. We don't leave people to die. Not ever, no matter what it costs us." As consciousness finally faded, Nix realized she was experiencing something that would change not just her life, but potentially the course of galactic history. The moment when the galaxy's supposedly most dangerous species proved to be its most humane. The converted mining vessel Star's Reach wasn't much to look at. Its hull bore the scars of countless asteroid impacts, and its medical bay had clearly been cobbled together from salvaged equipment. But to Nix, awakening under the protective field of a xenobiological stabilization chamber, it was more beautiful than any of her people's crystal cities had ever been. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the chamber's monitoring station, her dark eyes fixed on the readouts. Despite the casual way she wore her outdated uniform, there was nothing casual about her attention to duty. Dr. Rodriguez worked beside her, making constant adjustments to the atmospheric mix in the chamber. "Your crystalline matrix is already showing signs of repair," Dr. Rodriguez explained, her translator converting her words into the harmonic tones of Nix's people. "The sulfur damage was superficial. We got to you in time. Though I have to admit, your biology is fascinating. The way your neural pathways are integrated with your crystalline structure." "Maya," the captain interrupted gently, "maybe save the scientific curiosity for when our patient is stronger." "Right, sorry." The doctor adjusted her glasses sheepishly. "Professional hazard. I specialized in xenobiology at the Lunar Medical Academy, but I never thought I'd get to treat a luminary. Your people are usually so isolated." Nix's form rippled with patterns of grief. We thought isolation would protect us. But the Kraken," her voice faltered. "We know," Captain Chen said softly. "We've been monitoring their communications. They're calling it a preventative security action, claiming your people were developing stellar energy weapons. We weren't." Nix's crystal structure flashed with indignation. "Yes, we can absorb and channel stellar energy. It's how we feed, how we power our technology. But we never weaponized it. We're scholars, architects, artists." "Kid, you don't have to convince us." The new voice belonged to Chief Engineer Marcus Wong, entering the medical bay with a datapad. "We've dealt with the Kraken Federation before. They're bullies with a monopoly on conventional energy production in this sector. Anyone who threatens that monopoly tends to have accidents. The captain's expression hardened. Status report, Chief. Not good, Cap. Long-range sensors show 3 Kraken warships entering the system. They're methodically searching every planet and moon. Won't be long before they pick up traces of the escape pod's crash trajectory. Our engines. The atmospheric entry to reach the crash site strained them pretty bad. I've got them at about 70% efficiency. We're faster and more maneuverable than those warships, but a straight run for Council space isn't an option. Nix's crystal structure dimmed with despair. You should leave me. The Kraken will destroy your ship, kill your crew. Not happening. Captain Chen's tone made it clear this wasn't up for debate. Marcus, what about the Helios maze? The engineer's eyes widened. Cap, that's suicide. The solar flares in that region would tear us apart. Not necessarily. Dr. Rodriguez looked up from her datapad with the excited expression of someone who'd just made a connection. Captain, Nix's people can absorb and channel stellar energy, if we could modify our shields. You want to use our patient as a living shield generator. The captain frowned. No, but maybe we could learn from her biology. The way her crystalline structure processes solar energy, if we could adapt that principle to our shield emitters. The chief engineer was already pulling up shield schematics on his pad. It would mean completely reconfiguring the emitter array. We'd have to drop shields for at least 10 minutes during the changeover. And if it doesn't work, the solar flares will cook us, the captain added. If it does work, Dr. Rodriguez countered, we'd be able to use the Helios maze's energy against our pursuers. The Kraken ships don't have any way to protect against that kind of concentrated solar power. Captain Chen turned to Nix. It's your biology we'd be copying. Your choice, kid. Nix's crystal structure pulsed with determination. Show me the shield schematics. Our scholars spent generations studying stellar energy dynamics. I might be young, but I still know more about it than anyone else here. The next hours were a blur of activity, while Marcus and his engineering team began the physical modifications to the shield emitters. Nix worked with Dr. Rodriguez to translate luminary energy channeling principles into something compatible with human technology. Captain Chen kept them constantly updated on the Kraken ship's search patterns, buying them every possible minute. The human crew's adaptability amazed Nix. They took theoretical concepts that her people had spent centuries perfecting, and through a combination of intuition and desperate innovation, turned them into practical solutions in a matter of hours. Their technology was crude by galactic standards, but their minds were anything but primitive. They're scanning the volcanic plains, Captain Chen announced. We got maybe 30 minutes before they reach the crash site. The emitter modifications are ready, Marcus reported, but there's no way to test this without actually trying it. The calculations are sound, Nix assured them, her crystal structure glowing with growing confidence. The principles are the same ones that power our cities that stood for 10,000 years before. She faltered. Before they were destroyed by cowards who fear anything they don't control, Captain Chen finished. Well, time to show them why they should fear humans instead. Maya, is Nix strong enough to move to the bridge? We might need her expertise when we execute this plan. As long as we bring a portable atmospheric shield, yes. Good, because we're about to attempt something that every spacer is taught is impossible. We're going to surf the solar flare. The captain's grin was fierce. Marcus, begin shield modifications. Maya, get our guest to the bridge. Let's show the galaxy that impossible is just another word for hasn't been done by humans yet. As the crew rushed to their positions, Nix felt something she hadn't experienced since watching her world burn. Hope. These humans, with their patchwork ship and their impossible plans, were about to attempt something that even her people, with all their advanced technology, had never dared. And they were doing it not for profit or power, but simply because they refused to abandon someone in need. Perhaps, she realized, there was something to be said for being a little primitive, a little reckless, a little human. The Helios maze stretched before them like a twisted web of plasma and fire. Solar flares lashed between the closely packed stellar remnants, creating a deadly labyrinth that no sane pilot would enter. Through the stars' reach's viewport, the spectacle painted the bridge in shifting patterns of orange and gold. "Last chance to back out," Captain Chen announced to her crew. "What we're about to attempt has never been done before. Anyone who wants to take their chances in the escape pods, now's the time." The bridge crew exchanged glances. No one moved. "The Kraken ships have found the crash site," Lieutenant Santos reported from Tactical. "They're launching atmospheric fighters for a closer search." "Then we're out of time." A captain turned to Nix, who stood within her portable atmospheric shield beside Dr. Rodriguez. "Ready?" Nix's crystalline form pulsed with nervous energy. "The shield modifications are as close to luminary specifications as we could manage with your technology. But I should warn you, even my people never attempted to directly harness a solar flare. The energy levels are catastrophically deadly," Chief Wong suggested from his engineering station. "Yeah, we got that part." "Beginning shield reconfiguration," Lieutenant Santos announced. "Shields dropping in 3, 2, 1. For 10 heart-stopping seconds, the star's reach hung exposed at the edge of the maze. Warning alerts screamed as lethal radiation bombarded the hull. Dr. Rodriguez's instruments showed dangerous spikes in the ambient energy levels. "Shields reconfiguring," Santos continued, his voice steady despite the sweat on his brow. "Integrating crystalline matrix principles. Energy channeling protocols. Initiating." "Multiple ships dropping out of FTL," Wong reported. 3 Kraken warships bearing directly on our position. "Attention unidentified vessel," a harsh voice cut through their comms. "You are harboring a fugitive of the Kraken Federation. Power down and prepare to be boarded, or we will open fire." Captain Chen's response was pure human defiance. "Coming about to bearing 047. Marcus, give me everything those engines have got." "Santos, the moment those shields are up, execute solar interface protocol." "They're charging weapons," Wong warned. "Shields online," Santos announced. "Crystalline matrix stable. Solar interface ready." "Do it." The star's reach plunged into the maze just as the first Kraken energy bolts seared past their position. The modified shields flickered to life, taking on a crystalline sheen as they began to interact with the solar energy around them. What followed was unlike anything in known space combat. Captain Chen piloted their ship directly into a massive solar flare, using the modified shields to catch and channel its energy rather than deflect it. The star's reach surfed the plasma wave like some ancient sea vessel riding a storm. "Shield capacity at 120% and rising," Santos reported with disbelief. "The crystalline matrix is actually amplifying the energy absorption." Through her connection to the ship's sensors, Nix watched in amazement as the human crew did the impossible. They weren't just surviving in the maze. They were using it as a weapon. Every solar flare they caught was redirected back at their pursuers. Every plasma stream became a potential ambush point. The Kraken ships, designed to project power through brute force, found themselves in an environment where their strengths became weaknesses. Their massive shields couldn't adapt to the rapidly shifting energy patterns. Their powerful engines couldn't match the star's reach's agility in the solar currents. "First Kraken ship shields are failing," Wong reported with savage satisfaction. "Their energy absorption rates can't handle these levels." "The second ship is attempting to retreat," Santos added. "They're losing containment on their primary reactor." But victory, when it came, arrived with its own price. The continuous energy absorption was taking its toll on the star's reach's jury-rigged systems. "Shield emitters are reaching critical temperature," Wong warned. "The crystalline matrix is stable, but our hardware wasn't designed for this kind of sustained output." "How long?" the captain demanded. "Minutes at most. We need to end this now." Captain Chen's expression turned calculating. "Nix, you said your people use stellar energy to power your cities. Could we channel all this accumulated energy into one focused burst? Nix's crystal structure flickered with surprise. Theoretically, yes, but the power discharge would burn out your shield emitters completely. We'd be defenseless. But the Kraken ships would be destroyed. At these energy levels, they'd be vaporized. But so would we if we can't get clear of the maze without shields. The captain's smile was fierce. Then I guess we better be quick. Santos, plot us a course directly through the biggest solar flare you can find. Marcus, prepare for emergency FTL the moment we discharge. Maya, get Nix to engineering. We'll need her expertise to prevent a total systems overload. The next few minutes were controlled chaos. The stars reached dove deeper into the maze, deliberately absorbing more solar energy than any ship its size should be able to contain. Warning systems screamed as power levels exceeded every safety threshold. Kraken ships are following, Santos reported. They think we're running blind. Energy levels at 300% of maximum capacity, Wong added. Shield emitters are literally melting. Now, Captain Chen ordered. The Star's Reach pivoted with surprising grace for a mining vessel, bringing its overtaxed shields to bear on the pursuing warships. For a split second, the ship channeled the power of a small star through its crystalline modified emitters. The focused burst of solar plasma turned the maze into brief, artificial day. When the sensors cleared, the Kraken ships were gone, reduced to scattered atoms by the stellar fury they had pursued into the maze. But the Star's Reach had problems of its own. Shield emitters are burnt out completely, Wong reported. Hull temperature rising. We've got maybe 30 seconds before the solar flares tear us apart. FTL drive responding, Santos cut in. Course plotted to clear space. But sir, we'll be jumping blind. No guarantees where we'll end up. Captain Chen's laugh was pure adrenaline. When are there ever guarantees? Sometimes you just have to trust in human luck. Jump. As the Star's Reach vanished into FTL, leaving the maze behind, Nix realized she was witnessing something unprecedented. A fundamental shift in how the galaxy would have to view humanity. They weren't just primitive newcomers with crude technology. They were innovators who could take principles developed over thousands of years by other species and transform them into something entirely new through sheer audacity and determination. The galaxy would never be the same, and perhaps she thought as she watched the human crew celebrate their impossible victory. That was exactly what the galaxy needed. The Galactic Council's judicial chamber was designed to intimidate. Towering crystalline pillars stretched into darkness overhead, while the accused stood on a platform suspended over a seemingly bottomless void. The Star's Reach's crew faced the semicircle of council representatives, their small group of humans appearing particularly primitive next to the various advanced species assembled in judgment. Captain Chen stood at the front, her outdated uniform somehow managing to look dignified under the harsh lights. Dr. Rodriguez, Chief Wong, and Lieutenant Santos flanked her, while Mix waited in a specially prepared atmospheric chamber among the witnesses. Captain Sarah Chen, the mediator's voice echoed through the chamber, its multiple vocal organs creating a chorus effect. You and your crew stand accused of multiple violations of galactic law. Interference in political affairs, unauthorized deployment of experimental shield technology, destruction of Kraken Federation military vessels, and reckless endangerment through the unauthorized use of stellar phenomena as weapons. The captain's voice was steady. We stand accused of saving a child's life. Everything else was self-defense. The Kraken Federation demands punitive action. A massive, cybernetically enhanced being rumbled from the council seats. The loss of 3 warships cannot go unanswered. Those warships were pursuing a genocide. Dr. Rodriguez interjected, her academic's patience clearly strained. We have proof that the attack on the luminary was unprovoked. Silence. The mediator's harmonics turned harsh. You have not been given permission to speak. This council is well aware of the situation regarding the luminary. The matter is complex. Complex. Chief Wong's laugh was bitter. They're killing people because they're afraid of economic competition. Seems pretty simple to me. The captain raised a hand, silencing her crew. Honored Council, I accept full responsibility for my crew's actions. They followed my orders. If punishment is required, let it fall on me alone. Noble, but impossible, a crystalline being similar to Nyx, but older, spoke from the council seats. The precedent your actions have set cannot be undone by punishing one individual. You have demonstrated that human ships, crude as they are, can be modified with foreign technology to achieve military superiority over established powers. The political implications are severe. That was never our intent, Captain Chen replied. We simply used the tools available to protect an innocent life. And there lies the heart of our problem. The mediator announced. Humans consistently demonstrate a troubling tendency to ignore political realities in favor of what you call moral imperatives. Your species' insistence on intervening in situations that do not concern you don't concern us. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward, ignoring protocol. We found a child dying in toxic atmosphere while ships passed overhead, ignoring her distress calls. Everyone in this chamber who knew about that situation and chose to do nothing is complicit in attempted murder. You can dress it up in political language, but that's what it was. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The mediator's vocal organs produced a sound of displeasure. Your emotional response is typical of your species. You fail to understand the delicate balance. No, you fail to understand humanity, Captain Chen interrupted. We're not going to stand by and watch innocent people die because it's politically convenient. That's not who we are. That's not who we'll ever be. Then perhaps, the cybernetic being suggested, humanity is not ready for participation in galactic society. Perhaps, a new voice rang out. Galactic society is not ready for humanity. All eyes turned to Nyx, who had activated her chamber's communication systems. Her crystalline form pulsed with determination as she continued. I request the right to address this council as the last free representative of the luminary people. After a moment of consultation, the mediator nodded. Granted. You speak of political complexities and delicate balances, Nyx began, her harmonic tones carrying clearly through the chamber. But I witnessed something on that human ship that this council seems to have forgotten. I saw people who didn't calculate political advantage before deciding to help someone in need. I saw crew members willing to risk their lives using untested technology because the alternative was abandoning a child to die. Her crystal structure brightened as she warmed to her theme. You call humans primitive because their technology isn't as advanced as yours. But they took our energy channeling principles, which we developed over thousands of years, and adapted them to their shields in a matter of hours. You call them reckless because they don't follow your political rules. But those rules allowed for the destruction of my entire species, while human recklessness saved at least one of us. The human tendency toward intervention is destabilizing. The cybernetic being insisted. Perhaps we need destabilizing, Nyx countered. Perhaps a society that places political convenience above the lives of children needs to be disrupted. You fear human unpredictability. You should. They're what this galaxy needs, a species that still remembers what it means to care. The chamber erupted in argument. Various council members shouted about precedents, about political ramifications, about the danger of allowing emotional considerations to override established protocols. Through it all, Captain Chen and her crew stood straight, unintimidated by the cosmic drama they had unleashed. Finally, the mediator raised all four hands for silence. It is clear that this situation requires special consideration. This council will recess to discuss the broader implications. But know this, Captain Chen, your actions, whether noble or foolish, have changed things. The consequences will reach far beyond this chamber. As the council members filed out, Dr. Rodriguez turned to the captain. Well, that could have gone worse. Could have gone better, Chen replied with a slight smile. But I meant what I said. We're not going to change who we are just because it makes the galaxy uncomfortable. They'll have to adapt, Nix said through her chamber speakers, because more humans will come, and they'll all be like you, unable to ignore suffering, unwilling to accept injustice just because it's politically expedient. Careful, kid, Chief Wong grinned. You're starting to sound almost human yourself. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. Nex's crystal structure shimmered with what they had learned was her version of a smile. Maybe that's exactly what the galaxy needs more of. As they waited for the Council's decision, Captain Chen looked out at the vast spread of stars visible through the chamber's transparent walls. Somewhere out there, more humans were exploring, trading, and inevitably finding others in need of help. The galaxy wasn't ready for them, but that had never stopped humanity before. 5 years after the events that shook galactic politics, the observation deck of Harmony Station offered a view that would have been impossible before humanity's intervention. The massive space station, built through a collaboration between human and luminary engineers, orbited a young star whose energy powered everything from life support to faster-than-light communications. Nix stood at the viewport, her crystalline form now fully matured into adult configurations. The station's specialized atmospheric systems allowed her to move freely without protection, her crystal matrix refracting the stellar light into rainbow patterns across the deck's walls. Still can't get used to seeing that, Captain Chen, now Admiral Chen, said as she joined her at the window. The years had added a few gray streaks to her hair, but her eyes retained their determined spark. A station powered entirely by stellar energy, built by the people who tried to wipe you out for having that technology. The Kraken Federation had a choice after their defeat in the Helios maze, Nix replied, her harmonic tones carrying the confidence of a seasoned diplomat. Adapt or become irrelevant. Humans taught them that lesson. We taught everyone a few lessons, Sarah agreed, watching a newly commissioned human medical ship dock at the station. Its sleek design incorporated luminary crystal technology, a far cry from the jury-rigged modifications they'd made to the star's reach. Though I'm not sure they were the ones we intended. The best lessons rarely are. Dr. Rodriguez approached, carrying a datapad. She traded her ship's uniform for the formal attire of the new Galactic Scientific Exchange, though she still wore the same old-fashioned glasses. The latest results from the cooperative research program are impressive. The combination of human innovation and luminary energy principles is revolutionizing everything from medicine to space travel. And more importantly, a familiar voice added as Chief Wong joined them. Nobody's trying to kill anybody over it. He'd remained with the star's reach, which now served as a training vessel for joint human-alien crews. Well, mostly nobody. There's always somebody who needs a reminder about human stubbornness. The gathering was interrupted by a soft chime as the station's AI announced the arrival of more guests. The observation deck's doors opened to admit a delegation that would have been unthinkable 5 years ago. Kraken representatives walking alongside surviving luminary, their former victims now their teachers in the intricacies of stellar energy manipulation. Ambassador Nix, the Lid Kraken delegate, acknowledged with genuine respect. The preliminary trials of the Joint Energy Distribution Network have exceeded expectations. Your people's expertise, combined with human implementation strategies, has solved distribution problems we struggled with for centuries. Cooperation usually works better than conquest, Nix responded diplomatically. Though I believe we have humans to thank for teaching us all that lesson. The delegates' cybernetic systems hummed in what had become their species' version of rueful laughter. Indeed, we thought them primitive, dangerous. We weren't entirely wrong. They are dangerous, but not in the way we feared. Their real danger lies in their ability to make us question our assumptions, to force us to be better than we are. Speaking of assumptions, Dr. Rodriguez interjected, the latest data from the medical exchange program is fascinating. The application of Kraken cybernetic principles to human medical technology, combined with luminary energy transmission, were curing diseases that were considered untreatable just a few years ago. Admiral Chen smiled as she watched the former enemies discuss their collaborative achievements. Not bad for a bunch of primitive humans who didn't know enough to mind their own business. That's precisely why you succeeded where others failed, Nix said softly. Every other species asked, what are the political implications? Or what are the economic consequences? Humans just asked, who needs help? That simple question changed everything. Their conversation was interrupted by a priority alert. A distress call had been detected from a previously unknown species whose ship had suffered catastrophic failure in a nearby system. Without hesitation, representatives from all three species began coordinating a response. Remarkable, the Kraken delegate observed as they watched the rescue mission assemble. Once, we would have debated the political wisdom of contacting a new species. Now, thanks to humanity's influence, we don't even question the need to help. That's the real legacy of what happened 5 years ago, Nix realized. Not the technology we've developed together, or the political alliances we formed. It's the understanding that real civilization isn't measured by the sophistication of its technology or the complexity of its political systems. It's measured by its willingness to help those in need, regardless of the consequences. As they watched the joint rescue fleet depart, human ships flying alongside Kraken and Luminary vessels, Admiral Chen remembered that desperate mission to save a dying child from a toxic atmosphere. We never set out to change the galaxy, she mused. We just couldn't stand by and watch someone suffer. And that, Nex's crystal structure pulsed with warm light, is exactly why you did change it. You taught us that compassion isn't a weakness to be overcome by political pragmatism. It's the foundation everything else should be built upon. The observation deck fell quiet as they watched the rescue fleet vanish into FTL. Somewhere out there, someone needed help, and thanks to humanity's primitive insistence on doing what was right rather than what was politically expedient, they would receive it, not from humans alone, but from a galaxy that was slowly learning to be more human in all the ways that truly mattered. Dr. Rodriguez summarized it perfectly. Maybe that's what we really are, not just explorers or innovators or even warriors. We're teachers, and our greatest lesson is that the universe is only as cold and uncaring as we allow it to be. To humanity, the Kraken delegate raised a ceremonial flask, the species that reminded us what civilization truly means.